Welcome to Head to Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Marcum. This bi-weekly podcast is created to be a safe space to admit what we truly believe in our hearts. And many of us, when we take the time to truly examine ourselves, will find some sort of shame, fear, or lies hiding in there. And it is never God's will for us to stay in bondage to those. It's His truth that sets us free from them. But there's a huge difference between having biblical knowledge floating around in our heads and actually believing that it's true. Until God's truth makes its way into our hearts, nothing changes. We'll be doing a mix of solo episodes and interviews with friends who have experienced the freedom that comes when head knowledge becomes heart knowledge. The truth will set you free so you can walk every day in the freedom God desires for you. It's time to let go of shame, fear, and lies. Those aren't yours to carry. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, welcome back to Head to Heart Podcast. My name is Hannah. I am going to be interviewing today.
Today, I'm going to be interviewing who? Who are you interviewing?
I'm going to be interviewing Jenny today on her birth story. We're going to talk about her birth experience and the postpartum and how she's been doing.
Yes. So, I bet you did not expect Hannah to start talking when you immediately turned on this episode. I wanted to record my birth story because I recently gave birth. As one does.
As one does,
As
yes.
one does after being pregnant. So I asked Hannah to just ask me whatever questions she has. And also, we're probably going to start talking and then forget the recordings even here. And I said that if that happens and we get off too far off track, Hannah, reel me in. That's what I said.
Yes.
But I said, you can ask me whatever question you want. And we'll just go for it. But there are two reasons I wanted to record a birth story. One is because I just think they're enjoyable to listen to, and there's thousands of them on YouTube and podcasts. I think that that's really fun to listen to and learn about. So I know other people find them fun too. Please enjoy.
Yes.
Then the second reason is because hearing positive birth stories really helps expecting moms prepare for birth. And I listened to a lot of positive birth stories while I was trying to figure out the confusing world of decisions before giving birth. And it was so helpful to me. Like, really, I actually listened to a specific podcast episode with someone's birth story, and then my birth story actually ended up being very similar to hers.
Whoa.
So, and that was really like a very short time before I actually gave birth. So it was just such crucial preparation.
Yes.
And I knew what to expect because of her story. And of course, everyone's gonna be different, but there were several aspects that were very similar. So I hope that this helps any expecting moms to not fear birth, even when your plans change, because mine changed quite a bit. So, without further ado, go ahead, ask me what I've been set free from. I'm just kidding. Oh my gosh, do it. Ask me what I've been set free from.
What have you been set free from,
I have
Jenny?
been set free from... That's such a great question. Well, I do feel like I need to include that question because we always do.
Yeah.
We always do. It's tradition.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been set... Oh, I know exactly what it is. I've been set free from the idea that I can't trust God with my body. And I've been set free from fear around birth.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. You're welcome.
So let's take from the top, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do want to disclaim that I do not have kids. I'm not pregnant. I am not in that, even close to that phase of life. So if my questions seem ignorant, that is why.
No, there's no ignorant question.
No ignorant question.
And just so you know, if any person would make you feel dumb, or you ask whatever question about your body or birth, and the doctor that you're talking to, or the midwife you're talking to, or a person you're talking to is like, what a stupid question, get out of there. Just get out of there.
Run.
That's not supposed to be the reaction whatsoever.
let's take it from the top.
So let's do just that.
So you had a C-section.
I did have a C-section.
Okay, was it scheduled? Or was it...
It was spontaneously scheduled,
you
could say. It was a hybrid. Wait, no. We have to take it from even top.
Oh, okay.
Top.
What?
Pregnancy.
Oh, okay. So you haven't even talked
because if I start telling you about the C-section, it won't make sense.
Oh, okay.
Because it was spontaneously scheduled.
Okay.
It was a whirlwind.
It was a whirlwind. Okay. So, Jenny, you were pregnant.
Correct. And that was wonderful. My pregnancy really was quite wonderful and fairly easy. Like, I didn't really have a lot of pain. I didn't even have a lot of nausea in the first trimester, so it was really wonderful. And I was going to appointments and receiving care at a birth center, which is pretty hands-off. They're kind of like, let's do one ultrasound at 20 weeks and, continue to see you, but no ultrasounds until then you give birth at this birth center. Okay. It's not connected to a hospital.
Okay.
So that's where I was receiving care. Then, when I was 32 weeks pregnant, they measured my fundal height, which was like the length of my belly. Oh. But they measure it every month that you go in.
No, that fundal was height. Yes. I didn't know that was a measurement they took.
Because it's not just like, oh, how big are you getting? Mm-hmm. It's like how many weeks you are. Okay. They measure from your pubic bone to the very top of your stomach. Okay. That is an average is supposed to be the amount of weeks you're pregnant. Oh. So if I was 32 weeks, the exact average would be 32 inches. Okay. And then there's like a little leeway over or under, but I was measuring under, like a lot under, so.
You were small.
I was small. I was a small pregnant woman.
You were. Yes. I that was unexpected.
I did not see that coming. Yeah. And then, so they said, okay, you're measuring small, why don't you go get an ultrasound? So I went and got the ultrasound, and that was also at the birth center. But they said, okay, your baby is very small. We would consider her growth restricted. And growth restricted just means under the 10th percentile of growth for that gestational age. Okay. And the doctor, it was a bad experience because the doctor, that's pretty average news. That's just kind of like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad she's doing well, even though she's small. And, nothing's going horribly wrong, but, got to keep an eye on her. But that doctor then started going off on all these, like, worst case scenarios. Oh, and he said out loud, he said, I know I'm probably scaring you as new parents, and just kept going on the risk of this and the risk of that.
Oh, my God.
So I left that office crying. He said, why don't you get a second opinion, because it's very difficult to tell the size of babies after a certain week in pregnancy. It's very hard to measure after like week 12.
Oh.
So they're trying to get measurements and stuff, but it's inside of you.
Yeah.
And they're not putting the camera inside of you. So we went to the perinatal specialists in the hospital. And they said, first of all, that doctor said she's in the top 1 percentile. And I was like, that's really small. He's like, she's very small. And then I went 2 days later to the hospital to get an ultrasound. They said, she's doing well. She's in the 9th percentile. That's a huge gap. Yeah. That is ginormous. Like, under 10 is growth restricted. And she's at a 9.
Right.
That's pretty good. Yeah. So that was a much better experience at that ultrasound. So this was then considered a high-risk pregnancy. Okay. And it didn't really, the actual pregnancy was good. I'm not in any pain. I feel her moving all the time. She's doing well. But it just meant I could not give birth at that birth center anymore. Mm-hmm. That it needed to be in a hospital.
Right.
Because it was considered high risk. Now, when a doctor says high risk, a lot of things can be high risk that aren't actually that risky. Like if you're over 35, they might tell you you're high risk. But there's really, you're fine. You're just older.
Just an old woman giving birth.
You're really not even that old.
No, you're not.
So They recommended that we start going in to get ultrasound and a non-stress test twice a week.
What's a non-stress test?
A non-stress test is when they put 2 little monitors on your stomach to watch when baby moves. Mm-hmm. You watch her heart rate jump with that movement. Oh. And if it for some reason wasn't jumping, that would be, okay, she's in fetal distress.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So we were going into the hospital for ultrasounds twice a week, and this was all in the last 6 weeks of my pregnancy. So
oh, wow.
Literally everything was the same, unchanging, until the last 6 weeks. It was kind of crazy. But I was fearful kind of because the doctors were being so overly cautious, and really nothing was going wrong. Right. They just wanted to make sure that she was getting all the nutrients from my placenta that she needed. And she was. Every time we'd go in, it was all good. And so it was exhausting to go to appointments twice a week. And then even a doctor even told me, he's like, are we being paranoid? Yeah, probably. But, if something bad happens on the hospital's watch, right, that's their problem. Yeah. So that's why they're so paranoid. And I was becoming really restless because they would start recommending different things every time we go in. They really wanted to induce me, like medically start labor at 37 weeks. And they do recommend that for babies who are growth restricted, because they don't want the placenta. If it's because the placenta is not giving them all the nutrients they need, they don't want the placenta to be like, okay, I'm going to stop working now.
Right.
And everything was going well, though. But they were saying, we're probably want to induce you around 37 weeks. And then we'd go in for another appointment, and they'd be like, she's doing great. Probably induce you around 39 weeks. I didn't want to be induced at all. I just wanted to have a birth. I just wanted to give birth. So I started getting very restless, and all these doctors and nurses were always on rotation. So we'd see someone different every time, and I had to re-explain everything every time. And she was also still breech, still head up. And there are some doctors who will give vaginal birth in a breech position, but you got to go searching for them. They are not just available at any hospital.
Right.
But this was around 36 weeks. So I still had some time for her to flip. And I didn't know if she was going to flip or not.
When are they supposed to flip?
They can flip, I think, any time in between 31 weeks until birth.
Okay.
So, and they just supposed to do it on their own.
Okay.
But if you have a breech baby and you're getting late in pregnancy, you can do all these different things to help them flip. Mm-hmm. So I started doing everything in my power to help her flip, which is all these stretches from spinning babies. And
Spinning babies?
It's, spinning babies is is it a program? It's like a brand.
Okay.
And then they help you.
Okay.
Do all these stretches to help flip your baby.
Okay.
I was doing every stretch known to man. I was standing on my head at work.
No way.
Yes, because you have to do these stretches like throughout the day a lot of times. So I would go find a corner at work and go stand on my head. And then like I was only sitting with my knees lower than my pelvis. Okay. And I was burning moxibustion incense on the end of my pinky toes. Because it's a, what do you call those? Pressure point.
Okay.
So it's supposed to help them flip. I was doing all these things in the last 3 weeks of pregnancy, and nothing was working. She was not moving. And breech isn't bad. Breech doesn't tell you something's wrong. Mm-hmm. She just wasn't flipping, and that's okay. So when I was also going to the chiropractor to help her flip too, all to try to get her to turn. And I was feeling up and down a lot because I felt like I'm going to, birth is going to happen and I'm going to have a good birth, and that's okay that plans change. Then maybe the next day I'd be like, am I even qualified to have a good birth experience? Am I now disqualified from having any good birth whatsoever, or something that wasn't scary? And I'm going to read a section from my journal that I wrote during those times. I said, fears I am wrestling with this morning. I am disqualified from a good birth experience. I am completely by myself in this. Why don't they just chain me to a bed?
Oh my gosh.
They keep saying, let's induce you, but small babies don't like to be induced because it adds stress to them. So again, I feel like I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. I feel completely stuck and hopeless, and I want a beautiful birth, even if it's not completely natural, but I just don't even feel like I can be that person that gets that.
Oh.
So that was what I was wrestling with. And also the doctors thought I had high blood pressure but I don't have high blood pressure, but every time I go into the office, they would just scare me so badly that they would be like, is your blood pressure always this high? And I'd be like, no, just when I'm here.
Oh my gosh.
So I was feeling pretty hopeless, and I decided to call Victoria Hedger, who has been on 2 episodes of this podcast. And I just talked with her about what was going on and all the things. It was a very wise decision to call her because she basically just reminded me that I have free will. And I had forgotten that, honestly. But really, I did forget it. Yes. Because she was like, you don't even have to go to these doctor's appointments if you don't want to. Like, they're not going to do anything about it. You're not going to get in trouble. It's literally your life and your body and your baby. Right. And I had truly forgotten that, because when the guy in the white coat is just telling you, this is what I recommend, it's easy and takes very little thinking, very little feeling to just say, okay, that's what we'll do. Mm-hmm. And so I was talking with Victoria and saying, well, I've never had to trust God with my body like this. I've had to trust him with big decisions of jobs and relationships and moving, things like that. But I don't think I've ever had to trust him with my body like this. Mm-hmm. And she was like, that's completely understandable. But God gave you an intuition. So I just ask him to inform your intuition. I was like, what an interesting prayer. Yeah. So that's what I started praying. I started praying, God, I don't even know what's best or what's right or what this baby actually needs. I want to have a good birth experience. And I do believe that you care about how this birth goes. Like, you care about her well-being and my well-being. You also do care about how the process happens, because it matters to me. So, right. And you love me very much. So I started praying, God, please inform my intuition, because I didn't know what to do. And I decided from then on that I was going to switch to a hospital-based midwife team in that same hospital, literally the office next door. And I didn't have that many more weeks of pregnancy left, but it just meant that the appointments I was going to go to were so much less stressful, that I actually knew the people in there because they had a small team, and I wasn't stressed out every time I'd go in. So I only had maybe 3 to 2 weeks left of being pregnant, but it meant that I didn't dread going in weekly. So I started seeing them weekly, and then I would get those tests that I was normally getting just once a week, not twice a week. Okay. And I checked in with myself and saying, okay, do I feel like this is the right decision? God, please inform the intuition you've given me. And by this point, I reached 37 weeks, and all talk of inducing me stopped because she was still breech. Like, I was trying everything, but she's still head up. And they can't induce you if she's head up. Right. They're not going to make that happen. So the midwives were talking about, okay, would you want to schedule an ECV? And an ECV is a procedure you go in and the doctors try to manually turn the baby. They put their hands on your stomach and push. And,
see, that's what I've seen.
Yeah. So they suggested an ECV to try to manually turn Avanlé, my daughter, Avanlé, head down. And I did schedule it while I was at that appointment. But in the following days, I did not feel good about getting that ECV. Like, every time I think about it, I would feel really sad. And I felt like it wouldn't work. Like, I felt like I already knew it wouldn't work. And there are risks. There are risks and benefits to everything. But some of the risks are like, they could hurt your placenta. They could put the baby into distress. They could cause changes in the baby's heart rate. All of which would lead to an emergency C-section right away. They'd be like, okay, let's start right now, because they have to.
Right.
It could be very bad. So every time I thought about getting that ECV, I just felt like terrible inside. It felt like really upset and like, this does not feel good. One time I went in the chiropractor and I told her I had scheduled one, and she said, you don't seem happy about that. And I was like, well, I don't know. I'm just disappointed it's even an option. And she said, you should listen to your intuition, because you may not even be able to explain why you feel the way you feel, but you should listen to it. And so I was like, yeah, this does not feel right. And I canceled the ECV, and I just prayed, God, if you want Avanlé to flip, then I trust that you'll flip her. But if she doesn't want to flip, then I will trust that she just needs to come in a C-section, and that's okay. So I started then listening to positive C-section stories on podcasts to prepare myself just in case. And the ECV was supposed to be on that Tuesday, and I canceled it. And then on Friday, I had my regular ultrasound and non-stress test. And this was the only appointment that Joseph couldn't come with me, because he had something very important at work. Oh, no. That it was like the state troopers were inspecting their vehicles for work. Oh, okay. So he could not come, try to get out of it. He had been with me in every appointment besides this one. And I said, see you later to our cat, and I just left for the appointment. I was actually very, very late, and I thought to myself, maybe I shouldn't go. I went. And they ran their regular tests, and while I was hooked up to the non-stress test, the doctor came in with a resident. She said, this is a resident student. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Oh, because I was not expecting to see a doctor, but she came and found me. And she brought a resident with her, which meant that whatever she was going to tell me, she was going to make an example of it to this resident student. This is how you tell a patient this. So the doctor came in, and she said, we want to know how you would feel about delivering today. And I was like, what?
Oh my God.
And she just said that on my ultrasound, I had very low amniotic fluid that day. But all my other appointments, I had normal levels of it. And a small baby plus low amniotic fluid just means that there aren't many benefits to continue the pregnancy much longer, because she can't do anything else. She can't turn anymore. There's no room. She can't grow anymore. It's like, okay, pregnancy's basically done. Okay. We're ready. And I asked for a second opinion, and a second doctor came in and told me the same exact thing. Thank you so much for saying that.
Good for you.
Because at this point, I had already talked to Victoria. God has been informing my intuition, and I felt so much more confident about everything. And I was like, whatever the doctor tells me, I don't have to do it. Amen. I literally have free will, and I know my body, and I know this baby. So I can trust God with my body. Mm-hmm. And so when I asked for the second opinion, the doctor said the same thing, and I said, okay, let's do this thing. And I felt really good about it. I was like, so good. Yeah, it's today, and that's fine. And I called Joseph, and he didn't answer. Oh, no. But he didn't answer because he was talking with the state trooper. Right. So that would be why. That'll do it. And then he
had a legitimate reason.
He did, and I texted him. I said, it's urgent. Call me back, but it's good. No worries. And he called me back, and I said, I'm delivering today. Go to our house and pick up our stuff. And I also called our doula, and she said, okay, let's do this thing. Wow. So it was actually good that Joseph wasn't at the appointment with me, because he didn't have to come to the hospital, then go back, then come back. He just went, grabbed our stuff, and came. Mm-hmm. And our doula was wonderful, and she was on her way. So it was time. It was go time. And you have to fast before you have a C-section.
Right,
but
surgery.
Right. So I obviously didn't know I was going to have one that day, so I had eaten breakfast. So that's why it was spontaneously scheduled. That this wasn't an emergency, but they scheduled it for later that afternoon. Mm-hmm. Here's the very important part. This is why I started praying, God, inform my intuition, because I didn't know I had low amniotic fluid that week. If you have low amniotic fluid, the chances of an ECV actually working are very low.
Wow.
And the chances of an emergency happening are much, much higher. So I didn't know all that, but I knew I did not feel right about getting an ECV. And lo and behold, that week I had low fluid. And who knew? Except God. Yeah. God knew. So then they walked me into the main part of the hospital, and a nurse came and got me, and she was like, wow, big day. I was like, yeah, big day. And Joseph came with all our stuff, and the nurse I had while I was sitting in triage, just waiting in my hospital gown, she was hysterical. She just kept making joke after joke after joke. Her name is Monica. I hope Monica hears this episode. But she was so funny. And her being so upbeat was like really good for me because it made me feel more at ease. Mm-hmm. One of the things that made me laugh so hard was I had my birth plan written out on a piece of paper in a folder in our bag. I got it out and like scribbled new birth plans on it because I was like, plans are changing. And I handed that paper to her, and she was like, oh, all your birth preferences are super doable. No worries. It's not like you asked me to stand on my head in the corner and eat your placenta. And I was like, no, I didn't ask you to do that. And she was like, yeah, super doable. Okay, Monica, you are crazy.
Where's your line for doable, not doable?
Yeah, it's a very high tolerance for that. Yeah. They monitored Avanlé on the non-stress test the whole time, and they could see that I had contractions. They could see like the line going up and down. So they were like, did you feel that? Did you feel that? And I was like, oh no, I didn't really feel that. Am I having a contraction? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Then while I'm sitting there talking with the nurse, my water broke.
Oh, whoa.
My water broke. So it was the most shocking thing. I was just sitting there, and I just felt like this. It kind of felt like when your period starts, but like more liquid than that. And I was like, I'm sorry, something just happened. And she was like, okay, could I check? She's like, yep, your water broke. And I was like, Avanlé was going to be born today anyway.
Right.
It was perfect timing.
You're already there.
I was there. If I had somehow decided, no, I'm not going to get a C-section today, I would have gone home, my water broke, then come back.
Right.
So it was just perfect timing that she was supposed to be born. Yes, saved so much money on gas. She was supposed to be born that day. It was perfect. And then my doula came in, and she was like, this is perfect timing. Now you'll get the physical benefits of going into labor while you're having a C-section.
Wait, what are the physical benefits of going into
labor? You get this rush of energy, rush of like dopamine. Oh yeah, it's time. Let's do this thing. Mm-hmm. And your body is ready to give birth. Okay. It's like, we're not just opening you up and taking the baby out. It's like, your body is ready, and we're going to open you up.
It really is perfect timing.
It really is perfect timing. So God already knew. And I started having regular contractions after that. I started going into actual labor and actually feeling them too. Okay. So really, it was the best of both worlds. I did not think I was going to have to get to experience any natural labor. Mm-hmm. And let's just keep in mind that even just 2 weeks before, they were saying, let's induce you. Mm-hmm. No, unnecessary, because God knew. Yes. Perfect timing. So I started having contractions, and she's still breech and ready. And then I started getting the shakes because I was like, it's go time. I'm like, we're going to meet her like in an hour or something. So crazy. And they wheeled me into the OR with my doula. Joseph couldn't come with me when they give you the spinal, that shot, yes, that they put in your spine, and it makes everything from your ribs down like numb and feel all tingly and stuff. Joseph couldn't come for that, and I think it's because they don't want, it's like painful for your spouse to see you in pain. So apparently it was supposed to hurt, but I just went in there. And the nurse squeezed my hand really hard. And she was like, squeeze as hard as you want. And I felt almost nothing.
Really?
I truly...
That nurse had the touch.
Did not feel anything.
Whoa.
I was like, are you nervous? Because you just squeezed my hand hard. Anyway. And they just laid me down. They didn't restrain my arms. So in a lot of C-sections, they'll put your arms out like you're on a cross.
Yeah.
But they'll wrap your arms so that you don't suddenly grab or swipe at anyone. And I knew they did that at some hospitals, so I was expecting that, and they were like, oh, no, we don't do that here. I was like, thank you so much. I can keep my dignity. That just feels really barbaric.
It does.
So,
it, like, leaves you vulnerable.
Yes.
You can't do...
You're so vulnerable.
Oh.
And so my arms were out, but they weren't, like, tied to anything. My doula played my playlist right in my ear on my phone, which was prayer ministry appointment music.
Oh my gosh.
It's so soothing. That's what I wanted. And Joseph sat right where my head was, and I looked up at him, and he was, before they even started getting her out or anything, he was crying, and I was like, you're gonna make me cry, stop. He was like, I'm just so excited.
Oh.
And it was pretty quick. They're able to get them out very quickly. It's not something that takes a long time. And the strangest thoughts were going through my head right before, like, oh my god, I hope she's pretty. I also thought to myself, I was like, am I even a baby person? It's a little too late for that, but those are the thoughts that were going through my head, like, because it's all like, oh my gosh, it's really happening. It's happening right now. But I actually had such deep peace through the whole thing, and I knew this is exactly the way that she was supposed to come. And I had the verse, Isaiah 26, verse 3 in my head too. It says, the one whose mind is steadfast on you, you keep in perfect peace. Oh. And so that's the verse I had going through my head. And it was big, and I had some thoughts of like, what if she's really, really, really small and has to go to the NICU, or what if this and what if that? And I made the conscious decision, I'm not going to let fear steal the joy of this moment. Yeah. This moment is just too good and too joyful for me to allow what ifs to steal that from me. So I made that conscious decision, and I was like, I'm just not going to even think about what if. And meeting her was so special. I was just thinking, like, this is one of the happiest days of my entire life. She had the biggest frown on her face when they weighed her, because they had just manhandled her from her dark, warm cocoon. And
yes.
So I had this picture of her that she's not even crying. She just has the biggest frown. She weighed her, and she was 5 pounds 9 ounces. She was perfect size.
Okay.
Wasn't too small.
Wow.
Not too big. Just a perfect small baby.
Wow.
And Joseph got to cut the cord, and they laid her on my chest. And all the people in the OR were so excited for us. Oh. I know that they do C-sections all the time. Like, this isn't anything new. They could have just done their jobs and like sewed me back up and stuff, but they were so happy for us, and it was special. And they do this all the time, so it was really nice that they like clapped when she came out. And it was just a regular Friday for them, but they were also very excited. So and it was wonderful. So the rest is history, really. They wheeled me out. They kept us over the weekend, and I had a catheter in because that's what they do for C-section. You can't feel your legs, so you need a catheter.
Yeah.
Something I was nervous about was when they take the catheter out, because you can feel everything by then. And I had heard from other people that taking it out really hurts, but it did not hurt at all.
Okay.
The nurse just took it out. I know this is the wrong hole, but it literally felt like they just took out a tampon.
Right. Okay.
It was painless.
Okay.
And beautiful. And that is basically it.
Wow.
And when we went home, they put me in a wheelchair and put all her stuff on it, and like Joseph went and got the car, and they put her in her car seat and put that on top of my lap. Okay. They wheeled me out. I could not stop crying. I was like but it was all happy tears.
Right.
Like, And the nurse was like, "Are you okay, honey?" And I was like, "She's just so beautiful."
Oh.
I was unwell. I just could not keep it inside.
So happy.
They were letting me take her home. I was like, they're letting me take home the most beautiful girl I've ever met in my life.
Oh my gosh.
So it was so special.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So how was like the first week with her?
The first week was really wonderful. Joseph is off work for as long as I'm off work, which is great. I'm so thankful for that, because some dads have to go back after like a couple days or 2 weeks or something. Mm-hmm. But the first week was really great. I was breastfeeding in the hospital.
Okay.
But I didn't really like it because I could never truly tell how much she was eating. You know, like, you don't measure anything. Right. You just hope that when they come off, they're done.
Right.
And if they don't start crying, you're like, okay, I guess you're done. But I want to make sure she was gaining weight. So, like, the first night we were home, we just switched to pumping and using bottles, which has been so much better. Gave me a lot of peace of mind of, like, I can see how much she's eating. Right. And she was gaining weight really well. I didn't expect this, but newborns sleep a lot.
Okay.
I know I should have. I did know that in theory.
Right.
I did know that newborns sleep a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what you hear afterwards? People just say, you'll never sleep again.
Mm-hmm.
And really hard things.
Right.
But she just slept a lot. And for me, I really wasn't in pain. My incision hurt when I would cough or laugh.
Okay.
But it healed up after a few days and it was going well. And we just enjoyed watching TV, and she was just right next to us, sleeping away, doing her thing. So the first week was really good, and we had some visitors bring us food and whatnot.
Nice.
So that was great.
Your cloth diapering.
Oh, yes. I thought that cloth diapering was going to be really hard because I figured that's why a lot of people don't do it. There's like, okay, you're paying for the convenience for diapers. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Cloth diapering is so much easier than I thought it was going to be, because when we do put a bamboo liner on it, so if she poops, it's just like we just take that liner off, and then we just wash those diapers at the end of the night. Bada bing, bada boom, money saved. Money saved, ka-ching.
Ka-ching.
I hear ka-ching every time I change her. That's what I hear in my ear. Yeah. Cha-ching, cha-ching. And she's like, aha, what?
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So overall, it was a positive experience.
Yes, it was. Oh, when they wheeled me out of the OR after sewing me back up and everything, I told Joseph, I was like, I would do that again in a heartbeat.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was like, I can't believe you just said that. I was like, I know, but this has been the best C-section ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good, because I know a lot of people after a C-section, they're just like, I don't know.
Right. Exactly.
Very unsure about what to do, or if they want to do it again.
Usually, the C-section is what you do when you can't have a vaginal birth.
Right.
So that makes total sense. But if I couldn't have a vaginal birth, it was like exactly what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. If you could have the people listening take one thing away from this episode, what would it be?
Okay. If someone listening could just take one thing away, I would just tell them to start praying, like, God, inform my intuition, because I didn't know that she would be growth restricted, and it's not something that you can know early on. You just kind of, watch her growth as time goes on. But I didn't know that I would be a small pregnant woman. I didn't know that she would be in the 9th percentile or so. I didn't know that everything would turn out okay. But it didn't. I'm glad I didn't know, because obviously that was just the last 6 weeks of my pregnancy. Mm-hmm. Everything else, so smooth. And if I hadn't started praying, God, inform my intuition, I don't really know. I'm just thinking like, okay, well, I probably would have gone ahead with whatever the doctors recommended. Literally whatever. I might have scheduled a C-section, or no, I would have scheduled an ECV for like week 37, and God knows how that would have turned out.
Right.
And I would also say to whoever's listening is that God really does care about birth because he made it. Right. We just forget that. We forget that this was his plan. And I wouldn't believe any of the movie stuff that you hear or see about birth because it's all fake in the movies. Right. And it really isn't something to be afraid of. If God made it, we should not be afraid of it. And I think having a hospital birth wasn't our plan, but the Lord provided the people we needed to make it really smooth. And so I'm just so happy with how it turned out in every way. Could I have planned any of it? Absolutely not. And that is okay.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for listening. This is your first time hearing it.
Yes.
Raw action.
Raw.
Yep.
Yes. No, that was awesome. I'm so happy that it was good.
Yeah.
And it all worked out. Because I know the last time we talked before you gave birth, you were like,
I was like, I literally have no idea what's going to happen. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. That's awesome.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Head to Heart Podcast. It's a joy to record them and a joy to have you listen. Since you're a dedicated listener and made it to the very end of the episode, I have 2 gifts for you. One is that I have a free resource linked in the show notes for you. It's a resource created to help you take the truth you've learned either in this episode or in a previous one and apply it to your life. The second gift I have for you is access to my seasonal playlists. Every season, summer, fall, winter, spring, I create a regular playlist and a worship playlist that will be ongoing throughout the season. And you'll be able to follow it on Spotify if you need some good boogie tunes. Because let's be honest, in another life, I would have been a DJ. So you now have full access to meet all your seasonal music needs in the show notes. As always, I love hearing from you. So follow me on Instagram and send me a DM of how this episode impacted you. The handle is headtoheart_podcast. And if you would be so kind, leave a 5-star rating and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the website. By doing this, you'll help me get more amazing guests on the show in the future. I'll be releasing new episodes to you every other Friday, so stay tuned and thanks for joining us.